Welcome to Brave Healer Productions. It's time to experience what's possible. So, what if there's something you haven't learned yet that could change everything? Welcome, everyone. I'm Laura Franco, the CEO of Brave Healer Productions, where we are helping the world experience what's possible. And here today to help me with that mission are some of the amazing authors of one of our newest books. This is called The Caregiver's Advocate, a complete guide to support and resources. And this is our volume 2 book in this amazing series, you guys, this gift of a series of books. I've got some really cool people to introduce you today, but I want to give a big shout out to our lead author, Debbie Compton. Debbie, you had such a big vision and mission for this book, The Caregiver's Advocate. I feel your heart and soul every day behind this topic and the amazing experts you've gathered around you to share and teach about this topic. I was telling the authors a little bit ago, the common comment I keep getting is, oh, I wish I had this sooner, right? You guys are going to just be amazed at the expertise coming at you both today and in the book. So it's coming from one of our authors, Missy Crew. She's the CEO of Illuminate Senior Services, where they help families navigate senior living placement with compassion and trusted guidance. I've got Paul Wynn in the Zoom room. He's a patient advocacy consultant with life science companies and a healthcare journalist for several publications, including AARP, Brain and Life, Next Avenue, and US News and World Report. And Shauna McIntyre is here. She's the founder and CEO of Senior Community Connections, where she helps families navigate senior care with compassion, expertise, and heart. Welcome to all of you. Let's start this party with Missy. Tell us a little bit of the why behind your chapter.
Hi, Laura. Thank you. So I wrote chapter 15, How to Avoid the Crisis and how to find the right community with grace and ease. And the reason I wrote the chapter is because I do work with families every day who are trying to navigate this process. And oftentimes, these families have maybe planned everything you can think of imaginable, but the one thing they didn't plan for is maybe mom or dad having a fall and landing in the hospital and then being told that they may need to actually find a place and aren't safe to go back home. So the whole point, behind this chapter is really to try to help give them some insight on having the ability to have a plan in place and also having choice, not being at the mercy of which community may have availability at the time.
This is such an important topic that you never think of until it's already after the thing happened, right? I remember
Right.
some days as a physical therapist, and I was shadowing a PT doing home visits, and this was the thing. It was like going in there to see all of the different things to try to get that situation to be a little bit more safe. What's the thing? What else do you want people to know about that?
I always say it's better to have a plan and not need it rather than need a plan and not have it. So ideally, it's, getting mom or dad or whoever it might be looking at, possible placement in the future, just knowing what your options are and ensuring that they're part of that decision. It's such a big decision. And the thing we're not wanting is them to land in the hospital and all of a sudden they have to make a really quick, critical decision. Based on a short period of time. There's just too much that goes into it. And the goal is to really make sure that they understand which options are available to them, what makes sense. Not all communities are the same. I always say I'm an advocate for them to stay at home as long as possible, and I want that as long as they're safe. But it's a difficult process when in crisis mode and all of a sudden needing to make a decision, a financial, emotional decision in a quick time frame.
Yeah, how nice it is to have more time to really think and involve your loved one too, give them some choices. You're making me think of a a situation with a great aunt once upon a time, and I don't know why, but the thing about driving, that where that choice is being made for them, hey, you can't do this anymore. It's heartbreaking, really,
It sure
to
is.
yeah, to have to step in, but for safety's sake, right?
Right. And not every community will be the same, and it's important there's a different culture and a different vibe. So what we may want for our parents may look different than what our parents might like. So having them involved in that decision is really, really critical. Again, hoping that they don't need the plan, but having it just in case.
Yeah, for sure. Missy, thank you for saying yes and being involved in this project, being here today to share.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
I know that Shauna and Paul will be nodding their heads like I am to all of the way that we kicked this off today. It's such a big topic for everybody. Shauna, let's move over to you. Tell us a little bit about the why behind your chapter.
Yeah, so thank you so much for having me. My chapter is chapter 8. It's called When Home is No Longer the Safest Place, letting go of the guilt and finding peace in the decision to seek outside care. And like Missy, I do work with families, helping them navigate, but I would say the number one emotion that comes up with everyone is the guilt. And I think that's a huge driving force in a lot of families. It puts it off. In an ideal world, we would never want to put our loved one in a community. We always think in the back of our heads our loved ones are going to be safe at home and we're going to take care of them until end of life. But when things come up and we know in the back of our mind they're probably not safe to be home anymore, guilt is the hugest driving factor on what keeps people from making that decision. So the tools in this book were just there to help navigate through those natural feelings that you're going to have.
Oh my gosh, Shauna, the guilt. So, like, this will, I think, unfortunately, this would prevent somebody from making a safety decision. You know, if you guys follow emotions, the science of emotions, and some of the people who talk about emotions, guilt is one of those ones that's just pure destructive emotion inside of you. It just eats away, right? What else do you want to say about that?
Yeah, there's in my chapter there's a beautiful story about a family and it speaks just on that. We follow the process of what they went through, the decision making process, and in every single part of the story there was guilt involved. So it can cause you to clam up and not move forward because you're thinking, just with that guilt emotion versus, helping somebody find the best fit for them.
I think that awareness is the key here for emotions. And if you can pause and feel it as a feeling in your body versus all the stuff you're making it mean in your head, you've got like one small step toward addressing it more better.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So where do you start people with that?
I think the number one thing is just knowing that it is a natural feeling that you're going to have no matter what, and then just getting through it and navigating through it. Because even once you've made the decision that you know that your loved one is no longer safe to be home and we maybe need to find a community, then you start feeling guilt because you've promised them that they'd be able to stay home. And now we have to spend their money, and now we have to leave them in a place that they're not familiar with. So every step of that placement there's guilt involved. So it's just the tools of helping you get through it and knowing at the end of the day when you do place your loved one in a community that's the best fit for them, you're still going to have a little bit of guilt, but you're going to be able to lay your head down at night knowing that you made all of your decisions in love and compassion. And it wasn't out of malice or you didn't want them to be okay. You wanted them to be safe, and just home, it wasn't the safe place anymore. So it just helps you navigate through those feelings, and then you can rest knowing that they are in a safe place that's taking care of them. And then you can go back to being the son or the daughter, and you can feel good about visiting and making sure that, they're happy and living their best life.
Yeah, so important. I'll shifting a little bit into that peace of mind feels good, even just as I'm listening to you talk about it. Shauna, thank you for saying yes to this and being here today.
Thank you.
All right, Paul, tell us a little bit of your why.
Hi, Lori. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm so proud to be part of this new book, The Caregiver's Advocate, Volume 2. In addition to being a patient advocacy consultant, I've also been a caregiver to my mom and uncle who both lived with Alzheimer's disease, while I was also raising a young family. And I wanted to give a voice to those sandwich generation caregivers, those who are juggling the needs of their aging parents while also raising young families, and help them get through this tough time in their lives. I wrote chapter 3, Surviving the Sandwich Generation Years, because it's really important for those living through this to understand there are tools and solutions and ideas on how you can best cope and juggle through these tough times.
This is a huge challenge for so many people. I was just having a conversation about the sandwich generation with somebody else the other day, made me think of your chapter, Paul. And we were just, excuse me, just talking about the mega challenges. I mean, priorities, right? And how the heck do you make those decisions when it's hard to prioritize between the two groups of the people you love the most? What do you want to people to know about that? How would they even begin to juggle if, let's just say even their work is getting in the way?
Yeah, there's a quick anecdote in my chapter where I talk about a 10-day period where I moved my uncle out of his home into an assisted living facility, and the following weekend, my wife and I welcomed our third child. And I look back at that period, and I'm like, I'm not sure how I survived, but somehow I did, and it was through support and help from my family and friends, and really trying to prioritize what was important. And I know I had to get my uncle safely into his new environment, but we also had to prepare our family for our new baby. So I really kind of focused one weekend on him, and the following weekend was on our family and that exciting time. And I think that's really what's important about prioritizing what's the need at that moment, and understanding that, and also not getting overwhelmed by the future. Just take it day by day and understand that you can get through this.
Was self-care in the picture at all during that time? Like, yeah, I want to know. What was the reality for you?
Yeah, I'm laughing because
I
that's
know.
always the area that the caregivers forget about. And we hear that advice all the time, right? It's kind of like a broken record. Self-care, self-care. And it's true. It is so important, because if you're not taking care of yourself, you're not showing up in the right way for your loved ones. And so I did try my best. I wasn't always successful at finding time to go for a great hike at least once a week, clear my mind, get some physical exercise, just enjoy nature. Like, that was to me like my meditation, my hour to myself to recharge and refocus. And maybe I was thinking about what I needed to get done as a father, as a caregiver. But that time was really important to me, and I strongly advise others to find at least a few hours a week to dedicate to your self-care.
Yeah, so important. That's one of my favorite forms of self-care too. Paul, thank you for saying yes to this and being here to share today.
My pleasure.
All right, you guys, this is it's fun to kind of maybe carry on the self-care theme here, but what I want to talk about next is there are caregivers in many, many different stages and situations, circumstances at different levels of challenge. There might be some who are really struggling, maybe on the edge of burnout. You all know what this is for people who are caring for their loved ones. Shauna, what's your personal message to a caregiver who might really be in that struggle right now?
I think my personal message is allow yourself to take yourself out of that situation as often as you can to regroup and rethink. If it's just getting out of the house for a few hours, maybe finding a respite stay somewhere. A lot of folks don't realize that there are communities that allow short-term respite stays so you can get a break. And because if you can't take care of yourself, then you can't take care of your loved one.
Yeah, this is so important. A respite, say that again. Tell us
It's
about that.
called a respite stay. It's usually just a short-term stay in either a community or you have a home health caregiver come into your home and just allow you to step away for a few hours or a few days so you can take care of yourself and refocus and recenter and get back to your loved one.
Yeah, I think that's gonna I want y'all to rewind this interview and listen to that again.
Mhm.
Because, you know, maybe you didn't even know that that was an option, right? And maybe you're just at the point where you're starting to realize you're kind of getting cranky. You might be shouting at people or you're not yourself when you start to turn, right?
Right.
It's time for a break. I love that, Shauna. Thank you for that. Um, Paul, moving back to you, what's your personal message if you're speaking to somebody who's really in that deep struggle right now?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely encourage everyone to ask for help. I know that's hard for some people. I think guys maybe especially have a harder time asking for help and really, ask finding a way to reach the right people for that support and help. So I encourage all those guys out there that are listening, don't take it on yourself. Ask for that help. Develop a circle of trust, a circle of friends and family who can really help you because they are out there. And sometimes you have to be more specific about what kind of help you need. Just saying, I generally need help isn't usually enough detail. I need help buying groceries this week. I need help if you could make one dinner for me. Be specific about those help requests because that will make a difference.
I love that piece of advice, getting specific about the ask. It's hard to ask in the first place. It's hard for people to get up their courage to ask, but when they're over it and they can be specific, oh my gosh, can't you all just feel the relief and the help that they're going to get? It's yeah, that's a powerful ask when it's specific. Okay, Missy, what about you? What's the personal message for somebody who's in that struggle right now?
I'm going to say, going along with what Paul said, not being afraid to ask for help or support and knowing, where to start. One of the things that I share is in regards to where to start, I always think if you look at maybe an advisor, local advisors are a hub of resources. I mean, I honestly don't believe there's better resources out there than somebody who is in a position of senior living advisor like Shauna, all the local advisors. I don't feel I could place somebody in a community in California like I can here in Columbus, Ohio. The advisors that are in that local area are going to know the communities inside and out. They're going to know, leadership. There's a lot of things that we want to look at to make sure that it's the right fit. Not every community is going to be the right fit for everybody. So not being afraid to ask for help, but also understand where to go to get those resources that might be needed and the support that's going to help them. So, and those resources are no cost, which is amazing. There are others that may charge, and there's various reasons. So, just understanding that. But ideally, if you can find a local senior advisor in your area, that is going to be a great place to start and get the support that you're needing.
That is such a great golden nugget. Um, I am so grateful for all of you talking about these particular topics. And, you've dedicated your lives to the topic. And so these nuggets are golden. You've had the experience to know what helps the most. I want to continue my thank you to all three of you and also just give people a little peek at this beautiful purple book cover.
Mm.
Um, you all have taken on the challenge I gave you of putting that vulnerable story in this book. So thank you for that. And then you step up as the master teacher you are and give those caregivers a practical nugget, a practical experience, a tool, a strategy. And you guys, this book is full, you are going to say, whoa, I wish I had this sooner, but you're going to be so happy you have your hands on this book. Let's finish today by getting into your tools a little bit more. Paul, what's that most important thing you want us to know about the tool you're teaching about balancing in that sandwich generation?
Yeah, we've talked about self-care. We've talked about asking for hope and help. I would also suggest that you find ways to unite the generations together. Don't keep them in silos. It's okay to have the kids visit your loved ones. Maybe they're living in an assisted living facility or a nursing home. Find ways to interact with them. Likewise, try and bring your loved one maybe to the house for an afternoon where they can see the kids playing. It brings such joy to everyone. And there's ways for those generations to interact. And that brings your life together too. Instead of feeling that squeeze between your elderly family members and the young ones, bring them together so that everyone is experiencing some of that joy in the family.
I love that you brought that up. There is rich wisdom in doing that for all the ages in those generations. You just gave me a little flash to, again, I'm just using my great aunt as the example. She was 94 when she passed, but she had to spend a bit of time in an assisted living and then a nursing home. And we went, my younger daughter at the time, right? My mom, and I don't know, you're just giving me that scene again. I hadn't thought about it in a while, and I'm so glad we did that.
Yeah.
Like it was, yeah, I know you know. Yeah, it's cool. All right, so Missy, I'm going to move to you now. What's that most important thing you want people to know about choosing that right community?
I think, you know, when trying to find a community, it's got to feel comfortable, it's got to feel safe. And no matter what it looks like on paper, you can go through and do your Excel spreadsheets down to the T. But until you actually go in and experience a community, you really don't know if it's the right fit. And once you go in, oftentimes it may not be the one that looked perfect on paper. It may not have been the one you would have thought if you were just looking online and trying to identify which one is the right community. So leadership plays a big role in that. I always say looking at who is behind the decision making ultimately will lead to how well they're going to handle things. There's ebb and flow in communities. So we want to make sure that ultimately they're going in, they're experiencing it. It'll help them so much in making that right decision.
I would imagine you can expect to be allowed a conversation with that decision maker when you go into interview as well. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to say that out loud because sometimes people don't think that that's, that they can ask for that, but that would be what I would be asking for because in that conversation, the communication will speak for itself, the care, the awareness, the conscious, right? The consciousness there.
Right. I would encourage it absolutely to talk to that person. Oftentimes when going into a community, you'll know they'll have their door wide open, ready to come in. They're welcoming it, and that's a good sign.
Yes, perfect. That's another great visual of that. And what an easy, perfect sign for that. Um, Thank you, Missy. Shauna, let's wrap it up with yours. What's the most important thing you want people to know about letting go of that guilt?
Yeah, so I think for me, being in the industry for about 20 years now, the number one thing that everyone says once we've gotten through the whole entire piece of placement, we wish we would have made this decision sooner.
Mm.
And the key driving force that prevented them from making that decision was the guilt. So, we help work them through that guilt process. But there's not been one family that's ever come back to me and said, you know what, we wish we would have just waited a little bit longer. Everybody comes, they build this up to be this big bad thing in the back of their mind. And then once they're placed and once they're in a community where they're thriving, they always come back and say, we wish we would have done this sooner. So just don't allow that guilt to stagnant, to where your loved one is not safe at home and they're hurting, they're falling, they're not eating, they're just not safe. And again, if they're safe, keep them home as long as you can, but just don't allow that guilt to prolong that decision.
Yeah.
I second that, Shauna. Absolutely.
Notice, you guys, she said everyone says that, like not kind
Mm.
of, sort of, some people, but like every single, yeah.
Yes.
Shauna, Missy, Paul, thank you all so much for what you do in the world and for being here to share it with everyone. You guys, this is way more than a book. This is a generous community of experts. Maybe you've got a question or you need support and you're ready to reach out. Drop down into the show notes. I have everybody hooked up with their websites and links, and they're waiting for your reach out. They're there to answer a question or carry on the conversation, give you that support that you really need right now. So please go explore what they're up to. And of course, we would love for you to hop over to Amazon and grab your beautiful copy of The Caregiver's Advocate today. Lastly, everyone, your words change the world when you're brave enough to share them. So it is time to be brave. See you next time, everyone. Thanks, authors.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks, Lori.
you.